I'm Adam, and I'm the cigar expert, but the whiskey noob.
I'm Chris, and I am the whiskey expert, but the cigar noob.
And this is the Perfect Pairing Podcast.
And today we are finding the perfect pairing for this Aladino Candela wrapper cigar. But before we get to that, we got to talk about this week's trivia question. So, because we're doing a little bit of a St. Patty's twist here, our trivia question is, where was the first that we got to restart? I just gave it away saying that it was a St. Patty's twist.
That's fair. That's fair.
All right. We're going to redo that. All right, go ahead whenever you're ready.
All right, here we go. I'm Adam, and I am the cigar expert, but the whiskey noob.
I'm Chris, and I am the whiskey expert, but the cigar noob.
And this is the Perfect Pairing Podcast.
And today we're finding the perfect pairing for this Aladino Candela cigar. But before we get to that, we got to go to this week's trivia question. The question of the week is, where was the first ever whiskey, at least recorded, made at? And we will answer that at the end of the episode.
I know the answer.
Do you? I happen to know the answer as well. Although there's some debate we'll get into when I explain the answer to the question. No Googling, by the way.
No,
Have
yeah,
fun.
absolutely. That's got to be a given. Well,
Yeah.
This week, I hope everybody that is a part of the Perfect Pairing Club that received the cigars is not freaked out because they received a green cigar in their pack. Now, this is not it's not an extreme Candela. It's not too green, but it's green. And just so everybody knows, that is on purpose, and you can smoke it. That's not bad. It's not under fermented. It's all perfect. You can smoke this cigar. We're about to do so right now. But it's always a tradition every year to smoke a Candela cigar for St. Patrick's Day, and being St. Patrick's Day week, we decided to do it this week. A Candela cigar is basically that. It's a green cigar. That, for lack of a better term, it's a green cigar, right? It's a part of the process of making cigars. They skip the process that the heating process, for again lack of a better term, that changes the color of your tobacco. And in skipping that, it's not anything that they're doing wrong, right? Anything. They just decided they wanted their wrapper leaf to be a different color. So that's hence the green cigar. Candelas are not common in the cigar world, but they are a fun thing to smoke. And some people, it's their favorite smoke because it does provide just a little different taste. And we're going to experiment with that today. So I'm excited. Chris, my question for you today, because I actually don't even know this. Have you ever had a Candela?
Yes, I have before. Actually, it was for St. Patty's Day. I was like, I want this green cigar that I saw online. I want it for St. Patty's Day. So that's exactly what I did.
Well, that makes sense. That there you go. I mean, it's a St. Patty's Day tradition. So we're gonna go through this cigar and put it up against definitely not traditional St. Patty's Day pairings, right, Chris? No way. Traditional St. Patty's Day things today. No way.
Yeah, we got some fun pairings for St. Patty's Day this week, and this is a really good one for those who are newer to whiskey, especially if last week you didn't find your jam, you didn't find anything that was just hitting the nail on the head for you. If the monkey shoulder was too malty, if the bourbons were too spicy, we're taking a total different direction this week because it's St. Patty's Day. We've got Irish whiskeys, and they're going to have a little bit different of a flavor, which I think a lot of people are going to enjoy. Plus, a little something other than whiskey this week in the middle for a little intermission.
Oh, yeah. I like it. I'm excited for the middle. You know, we don't got to get too crazy every single time we film one of these episodes, but there's just to give a little hint. I'm gonna release a little something here. Well, you can go ahead and cut in light.
Sounds
so
good.
You can get your cigar ready. There are some Easter eggs in this whole scene that we've got going on. Chris's scene plus my scene, they may change on occasion depending on what Chris is doing, what I'm doing, and what we're doing together. And I'll reveal one very plainly for you guys today. If you can't see, I'm wearing a green shirt. It's St. Patrick's Day. Guys, come on. That's an easy Easter egg. They're going to get a lot more complicated. And I can promise you in the background, they are more complicated. So good luck in guessing those. But Chris, I'm interested. First puff, what are you feeling? How you feeling? Should we smoke green cigars or should we just give up on them altogether?
Hey, I'm pro green cigar, man. I am. So far, a lot lighter than that last one we had in our last episode. Got some kind of creamy vanilla vibes to it. Really excited to see how it goes with a couple of these pairings, actually.
Well, I think we should just go ahead and dive in, though. What's number one? What do we got
Let's
first?
do it. I believe I have Dead Rabbit listed as number one. Let me grab the bottle.
Dead rabbit. Poor guy.
Right. So here we've got Dead Rabbit Irish whiskey. This is 44% ABV. This is a really nice bottle that I like for a slightly more budget but still good tasting Irish whiskey. I want to say this is going to be around the cost of like your Jameson, your Proper 12, but it's got something different going on. I mean, look at that label. That is really nice. I'm going to turn it.
Yeah, I think they've done a phenomenal job with the whole marketing of this bottle. If that was the first thing that I noticed when we started talking about this brand, I was like, these guys got. It's like bands, right? Why not make it look cool? You make a
Exactly.
product anyways. Like make a cool band and make a cool label, and I think they've done a great job at that. That was a nice little cork pop.
That was a good cork pop. That was solid. Now, with the Irish whiskeys, you're going to notice they're going to be a lot lighter, a lot sweeter. They're going to be. Sorry about that noise in the background. That just scared me. I don't know if you guys could hear the noise, but that freaked me out. They're going to be lighter, though. They're going to be sweeter. They're going to have like a nice light honey, sometimes a light maltiness to them. Maltiness being a note that you get when there's malt in the recipe. And I think it's going to go well with this Candela wrapper, which I'm excited to try out.
Yeah, I just took a little sip. I jumped the gun a little bit, took a puff, took a sip. This is gonna work. I don't know. This is something that I don't think either of us know that I'd be super curious about. Did the cigar makers, because I think Irish whiskey came first before Candela's. If I had to guess,
Mhm.
actually, that's probably a no-brainer. But did the Aladino, right, when they created this cigar, Aladino's a smart bunch. Did they make this cigar to go well with Irish whiskey because they knew it was going to be bought during St. Patty's Day times? Because this is going well so far. Like this, I'm excited about it.
That's a very good question because it does give you more of the vibe similar to what an Irish whiskey gives you. I haven't taken a sip yet. I'm going to dive in and see what happens.
Go ahead and dive in. Best of luck. Full transparency to everybody. This is my first time having Dead Rabbit, literally fresh. I really like to go fresh with you guys when I'm just live on the screen like this because I want you guys to see my true reaction because you can't hide it. If you have a whiskey for the first time and you hate it, it's not your face is gonna tell it all. And this, I am a super fan of this. I'm a little bit of fan of Irish whiskey in general, but I wouldn't say a huge fan at all. I drink Jameson on a rare occasion. This I would pick over Jameson. Sorry, Jameson, but I would. And I think it's pairing well so far. Chris, what do you think you're getting?
It's a pretty nice pairing so far. It definitely already the cigar has changed for me.
Agreed.
Super light, creamy vanilla on that first puff. This brought out some more of the woody notes. Definitely deepened it a little bit for me. The whiskey, I haven't put a beat on yet. I haven't figured out exactly what's going on with it. I'm going to need to take a second sip here and see what happens.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, again, I am the whiskey noob, so being having not experienced this whiskey before, I don't I won't be able to identify how much it's changing, but I do feel like it's changing. Um I feel like both of these are like moving closer together the more I try one or the other. I feel like they're just harmonizing really well right now.
Definitely. They definitely harmonize nicely. they I think the whiskey might be getting a little bit weaker. It
Mm-hmm.
might be losing a little bit of that body, but it's getting a nice kind of simplistic sweetness to it that I'm enjoying.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the cigar is becoming slightly less sweet for me. So they're kind of playing off of each other a little bit.
Yeah, I don't even think we need to move on. I think I'm just gonna sit right here and just drink this the rest of the podcast.
It's an easy
this,
drinker, right?
no, this is a very chill experience. If you're looking for, I mean, and you can speak to the whiskey world, but if you're looking for a cigar that's really easy to start off with, I know a green cigar doesn't sound like your beginner cigar because it's green, but guys, this is an easy cigar to smoke. Like Chris said, it's a very easy little kind of vanilla note. Just it's soft. Like that's the word I keep trying. I try not to use it because I'm like, what does soft mean? Like, it's just
Hmm.
soft though. It's soft on the palate. It eases you into the smoke. There's no harshness at all. And then I guess that's where I'm going with the soft term is there's no harshness, right? It's
Hmm.
not, oh man, like like it's something that's really just approachable. And I think Irish whiskey in general has that same vibe.
Definitely. This is a solid like beginner pairing setup because Irish whiskey is approachable. It's really easy. This cigar is approachable. It's soft, like you said. The whiskey, similar to the softness, it's got what a lot of people would conventionally call smooth. It's not very harsh. It's really easy on your palate.
Mhm.
And when you combine the two, I mean, it's really a nice kind of laid back pairing where they both are sweet. They're both relaxing. I think I'm getting a little bit of cinnamon from this cigar now, which I wasn't getting beforehand. And I'm really liking that.
I'm getting more of that vanilla you were talking about.
Mhm.
I'm not getting much cinnamon, but again, we talked about it on the last podcast. Your palate is going to be more starting from the whiskey, trying to find
Mhm.
that flavor in the cigar. Whereas my palate's going to be start with the cigar, trying to find those flavors in the whiskey. And it's an interesting kind of dynamic depending on who you guys are out there. Are you a whiskey noob, but a cigar expert like me? Or are you a whiskey expert and a cigar noob? Or are you better than both Chris and I? And you're an expert in both. And if so, cheers to you and appreciate you for listening. Hopefully you learned something.
Right. Hey, I feel like I have to be at least pretty accurate with the whiskey, but when it comes to the cigars, I'm gonna throw out whatever comes to mind because, like you said, man, I'm the noob. I like it though. I like just whatever's popping into my head. I'm throwing it out there, and honestly, a lot of people listening who are newer to either of these should know that that's okay. Like you can just throw stuff out there. There's no right or wrong.
Absolutely. There is no script to this. There's no, I mean, I haven't researched the whiskey world as much as you have, but I know in the cigar world, there's some pages out there. I'm not going to mention them half wheel, but when you go to them, you see these notes and they're like grandmother's leftover shoes. And I'm like, how did you get there and why? Like, where did you eat at one point? Did you like really lick like your old grandmother's leftover shoe? Is that why you know what that tastes like? I'm really not sure how to get there. Like, of course, when I say cedar note, I mean, yeah, every week to keep my palate up to date, I eat some cedar. No, I
Exactly.
don't.
You have to. I mean, I
Yeah.
go around, I lick a barrel every once in a while so that I can say if it's got the barrely note to it.
Yeah, you set it on fire and you're like, this is a fiery charred barrel. I licked the fire of the char, and this is what it tastes like.
It's just the sacrifices we make to be critics.
It's really a tough gig. But no, like Chris said, there's no script. It's exactly what you guys are getting out of it, and that is the rule. What you like is what you like. Chris and I
Mhm.
may just like say like, you know what, this dead rabbit, which we both are, I feel like is just phenomenal. And you may be like, guys, what is wrong with you? Why are you saying this? This is not good. I'm not a fan of Dead Rabbit. But you may be a heavily peated scotch drinker and you're like, yeah, no, duh, because you're drinking water right now, like
Right.
compared to your normal drink. And I'll get off my soapbox after this last note. This is how I always use this comparison. If I was a food critic, I would rate because I hate spicy food. I hate I hate all spicy foods. I would rate if I was 1 out of 10, I would rate the spiciest whatever Indian food or whatever you want to call it like a 1. But you may love spicy food and you're going to rate it an 8 or a 9. Does that make me or you wrong? No. We got different palates. And that's again, that's all I'll say. And that's what we're experiencing here. You guys are going to have different palates. Chris and I, we disagreed on the last, top 3, and I'm sure there will be a pairing where we come across. Maybe it'll be the next 2 today where I go, man, that is phenomenal, and you go, nah, that's not doing anything for me.
Yep. That's so true, and that's why it's really great that we come from different backgrounds with that, because I think people are going to see that a lot, and that it really just shows how your experience, your preference, your taste buds, it all plays into it big time. Now, that
Yeah.
being said, what are your thoughts on this overall on this pairing so far?
Again, I already put it down because I was like, maybe I didn't do it big enough for it, but I was so excited about it that I felt like I just kept going back and forth. I was super blown away by this pairing. I think ultra complimentary, and well, that's an oxymoron in terms of the 3 pairings. If you guys didn't see episode 1, make sure you tune into that one because I revealed the 3 types of pairings: complementary, antagonistic, and ultra. But this was a very, very, very staple, what I'll say, complementary pairing in my opinion. They both just beautifully went together. The flavor of the cigar was elevated. The flavor of the dead rabbit was elevated. Beautiful.
Yep. Yep. That was definitely, it was a good pairing. I'm really liking this Candela so far. I haven't had something with this type of a characteristic in a long time. So I'm really excited to get deeper into it here too.
I could not agree more. Well, are you ready to move on to step number 2? I'm excited. This one's going to be interesting.
I'm so excited. Yes. Let's dive into it. Pairing number 2, we're taking a break from the whiskey. Oh yeah, there you go. Let me get it right in front of the mic here.
Oh, it sounded so good.
That sounded nice. So pairing number 2, we've got some whiskey infused Irish coffee with real cream from Fire Department Coffee here. And I've had their grounds of this and like made it myself. I've never had their can of it. I'm super excited to dive into this. I love the pre-ground that you buy of this. So let's get into it here.
Whoa. Yeah, I just took my first sip. Now, I want to note before you mention anything, this is non-alcoholic, right?
Correct.
It's non-alcoholic, so it's not like it's a different pairing, right? We're going through pairings, and that is a huge point, and we'll get onto it a little bit later, maybe. But you don't have to pair your cigars with an alcoholic drink. People are like, "Well, I don't drink alcohol, so what can I do?" Coffee, Dr. Pepper, sparkling water. There's so cappuccinos. There's so many different things that you can go to. But anyways, again, I'm not going to go too crazy on that, but I just wanted to mention it's not alcoholic, so you don't have to be crazy drinker guy to enjoy a good cigar pairing.
Absolutely. And coffee is one of my favorite pairings. Actually, I know I'm the whiskey guy, but I love coffee with a cigar. I've always been a fan of it. And this has that nice, light, creamy. I mean, it definitely is made to have kind of an Irish cream flavor to it. And it has it. I mean, it's very interesting.
I would have to agree. I would have to agree. Now, I took a puff of this cigar. I already dove in. I jumped the gun again. And then I took a sip. And while I'm really enjoying this, the nitro brew coffee here, I think it's too strong for this Candela.
It might be. It might be. It's got that nice coffee flavor. I'd love to try it with a slightly darker cigar.
Yeah.
It mellowed out the Candela a little bit. Now, I would say this might be antagonistic in the sense that the coffee, I was getting a significantly more sweet cream flavor than I normally get from it. I mean, there's still the boldness of the coffee there, but it's kind of bringing out, it almost reminded me, I'll throw out, like I said, I'm going to throw out weird notes. It reminded me of banana there for a minute. I was like, this kind of has like a cream pie flavor to it for a second.
You're onto something. That was interesting. As you were talking about it, right after I took the sip, I was like, okay, I see it. I see it. My palate expanded here. But yeah, I'm really what I'm struggling with is what it's doing to the cigar.
Yeah.
I'm not like it's doing something, and I'm not able to exactly pinpoint it just yet. So I feel like this is one of those moments where I feel like we both want to just like, all right, hit pause, and we're gonna go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, because that's what you're gonna do when you guys have this pairing. If you have the opportunity to, if you're a part of the perfect pairing club and you got this cigar, and you have the opportunity to find some fire department coffee here, with this spirit infused coffee, um, you're gonna see the same thing. You're gonna sit there, and luckily, you aren't gonna be on a podcast where if you're quiet for 30 seconds, everybody's gonna think you're weird, and you're gonna be able to go back and forth and go, what is going on here? And I haven't nailed it. In the midst of that ramble, have you nailed it yet? Because I can't.
I mean, for me, yeah, I think I've at least figured it out, and this is gonna for sure be in the layman's terms because I'm not getting any specific note changes, but I'm getting it's a little bit less sweet. It's kind of like you mentioned, it's a very soft cigar. It made it a little less soft. It kind of just brought out a little bit more of the pepper for me and not as much of the flavor. It kind of cut back the body a little bit. Now, I really which is weird. If you're doing this for the flavor of the coffee, I'm loving what the cigar is doing to the coffee. It's like a banana cream pie flavor that is weird, and I dig it. So I'm really enjoying that. I think, and I don't know the cigar wrappers off the top of my head because once again I'm newer to this, but I think with a more medium range cigar, not necessarily a Connecticut or a Candela like we got here, but something with a little bit more darkness to it. Not super dark, but I think it would go a little bit better with that. I think if you got too dark, it would steamroll over the coffee, but something in that middle range I think would go nicely with that coffee.
For the cigar people out there, where I think he's going, and I would have to agree, is the San Andreas wrappers, specifically a San Andreas Maduro, because at least in my opinion, I feel like more than just your average Maduro, maybe from Nicaragua or Honduras, um, the San Andreas Maduro from Mexico, clearly San Andreas, um, it has some more sweetness to it that I think is going to play with the Irish coffee twist in
Mhm.
this coffee, where normally maybe your heavy Nicaraguan Maduros would go well with a nice Colombian roast black coffee, but it's the Irish cream in this that's kind of throwing a little sweetness in the mix. I feel like that's where Chris was going with that, is a San Andreas Maduro. That's what I'm thinking, and I agree. I it's just it's interesting. It's good. I like both together. I'm not sure exactly what's going on. I really would have to sit down and go, okay, but that's kind of part of what we're doing here, is seeing your initial reaction sometimes, like mine with the dead rabbit. I'll bring it up again. It was right off the bat. First puff, first sip, first puff, boom. Like
Yep.
nailed it. Like it was clear right away.
And this is a really good learning moment, honestly, because you just said something that is key. Is you said I love both of them, but together I don't like them very much. I get this a lot where people might try, especially in the whiskey world that I'm in, they might try a whiskey with a cigar and either love it and then they buy it and they're disappointed, or they hate it and they never try it again. And it could be something they love because pairings are real. I mean, that's the reason this podcast exists. Things change when you pair them. So you really don't want to get one opinion with a pairing and think either that's going to be your new favorite whiskey or that you hate that whiskey or whatever you're pairing with. Same goes for the cigar because it changes the flavors big time.
100%. Couldn't agree more. But overall, again, I like both. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm intrigued to see this third one,
Yeah.
because now I'm like, I think it's clear to the listeners. I got Dead Rabbit at 1. I got the Fire Department Coffee at 2 in terms of the pairing with this cigar of the week.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this third one could throw a real mix in terms of trying to decide the final results.
I think it will as well because it's going to be pretty different. And so keep in mind, guys, when we're doing these rankings, these aren't how much we like each thing. It's how much we like the pairing with the cigar that we're having. This next one's going to be a curveball. I'm going to grab it. So the reason this is a curveball is because we've got Green Spot Irish whiskey here. This is a little bit higher end of an Irish whiskey. This is a little bit more expensive, but the key here is that this has those nice, sweet, mellow flavors of an Irish whiskey, but it's got a lot more body. It's got a lot more perfumey of a flavor to it, and it's going to be very different from this Dead Rabbit. This is a great example of how two of the same whiskeys using similar processes can give you two totally different flavors. So I'm really interested to see if that body holds up to this cigar, if it washes out the cigar, if the perfuminess brings a new element to this pairing. We're going to see what happens. I got to pour some up right now.
This was not a plug at all, by the way, Chris. Wasn't trying to promote any sort of noobs of whiskey at all.
I like that. I like
Yeah.
that. I'm not here. I am not plugging my own merchandise. I got an unlabeled one right now.
Rookies. No, I'm just kidding.
Rookie mistake. We'll have to get some perfect pairing Glencairns. That way we're repping. That'd be solid.
There we go. We can definitely get that together. While we're on the topic, while Chris is trying this one, I wanted to mention something that's really cool. If you were a part of the first ever month where we sent out the Perfect Pairing Club, congratulations. I'm sure that you're enjoying everything so far, but I wanted to mention something that was really cool because I thought when I came across this in the cigar world, which by the way, it took me 3 years to come across this because it has never happened before. It blew my mind, but the packs that we send the cigars in are humidified bags, right? So here is the bag. I know it's not perfectly, we got a lot of glare here going on, but it is the Humidif Group humidified bag. And you see this circle right here. That is a real hygrometer, which if you don't know what a hygrometer is, you're from the whiskey world or you're just a cigar noob, then it's what is gauging the humidification percentage of the unit that you're holding the cigars in. Every single humidor has a hygrometer. It tells you, oh, your cigars are at 50% humidity, which by the way is too low, or they're at 90% humidity, which is too high. So it's very important to keep cigars at the right humidity. So the basic rule is called the 70-70 rule. You want to keep your cigars at 70% humidity and 70 degrees. If you keep them there, you'll be fine. Once you get a little bit along your journey, like me, you'll be, and Chris, I know you'll get here eventually. I know you're not here right now, but you'll be able to smoke a cigar and go, crap, my humidor is at 69. I like to keep it at 67. Like
Yeah.
that 2% humidity, you can tell the difference. I like to keep my cigars at 67. Actually, it's a combination of the pet peeves. My biggest pet peeve in a cigar is when the draw is bad, right? We talked about the draw last episode. When it's like drinking through a milkshake with a super tiny straw and you're just not enjoying it at all. It's super, your whole neck muscle is getting sore because it's just a terrible experience. That is an over-humidified cigar or a cigar that is rolled too tight. So that's what happens when it's over-humidified. When it's under-humidified, if it's super under-humidified, you'll realize and you'll experience a lot of cracking. You'll smoke your cigar, and when that heat is introduced, the wrapper will crack, and then it'll unravel. And that is not a good experience. But for me, I like about 65 to 67. I'll go up to probably 69. That is right where I like to be because I'll smoke a under-humidified cigar before I'll smoke an over-humidified cigar. And that's just my little thing. But these bags, guys, are literally revolutionary. No one in the entire world has ever come out with these. These came out very recently. So you guys are one of the first guys, if you're in the Perfect Pairing Club, to experience it. And it's just super cool. If you enjoyed it, please let us know in the comments. DM me or Chris. Just let us know these things. I was super excited to give these things to you guys. So please let us know if you like them. If not, we'll just throw them out. So let us know.
That's a really sweet bag. You were just describing that to me beforehand, and I was like, "That I didn't even know that something like that existed." So that's super cool. I will say, I'm not to the point where I can have like a 67 and be like, "This should be 69" or anything like that. But I am, and I think probably everybody is, to the point where I have smoked a cigar and it's like Tom and Jerry when Tom smokes it and the whole thing goes all the way back, and I'm like, I think maybe my Bovida pack is dried out, and I'll go check my cigar, and sure enough, it's hard as a rock in there. I've had that experience before. Now I'll give you a second to absorb what you're tasting here, because I have come up with an opinion, and I think I know where this is going to land in your ranking, but I won't say till you give away your ranking. I don't want to influence you. What I noticed was, so I went whiskey, cigar, whiskey. So the whiskey, what you're going to notice with the green spot, like I said, a little bit more perfumey, got a nice vanilla, almost custardy flavor to it. It has a little bit of a bitterness at the end that I usually get when there's a lot of sherry on the finish, which I'm pretty sure these are finished in sherry casks. And so that's the whiskey. Now, when I went back to the cigar, there was a little bit less body of the cigar for me, a little bit harder to taste, a little bit of the pepper, still some of that vanilla cream for sure. When I went back to the whiskey, I can't put my finger on what exactly I was tasting. It was so different, but it reminded me, the closest I could get, as I was like frantically trying to figure out what it was. I was going back and forth. It kind of reminded me of like almond or something that I've not gotten from Green Spot before. Super strange. Had a weird flavor to it. It was almond, and then as it went into the finish, it kind of got funky. It got a little bit strange. Without getting too subjective and giving away what my ranking is, I'll explain when I do the ranking. But that's my overall synopsis of this pairing.
It's delicious. It is delicious. I'll give you that. What I'm trying to figure out, I 100% agree with your analysis on the cigar. I think it is elevating that cigar. I think the vanilla flavors are bursting. The vanilla cream that you mentioned, bursting just right out of that cigar, right onto your tongue, right onto your palate. Absolutely beautiful. I mean, this Candela is lights out. Like, really lights out, in my opinion. I've had a couple Candelas. I've had this a couple times. And I'm just going to be very blanketly, truthfully honest. I didn't think it was this good. This is really good. This is really good. Now, when it goes back to the whiskey, I am still figuring this thing out. This is interesting because the Candela is trying. It's throwing punches, but I'm not sure it's landing a whole lot for me on this whiskey. I think every single puff I take, then I go back to a sip, it's hitting, it's trying to go up top, and it's barely grazing his head, and then it's going below, and it's barely getting a body blow. It's just hitting different spots, and I'm not sure I'm figuring it out. So I'm gonna keep sipping here and puffing and seeing where this goes. But now all I'm thinking too is why does Chris know what I like? What am I supposed to like? I'm like, what in my head? I'm like,
I'm in your head.
What am I supposed to say? Like,
No.
number 1 or number 3? I don't know.
I could be wrong. I just like to take guesses. And I think what you're getting at with this Candela too is it's got nice body to it. Like it's not overpowering by any means, but it doesn't just completely fold like some Candelas. Some are just, it's sweet and that's all you get. And it's almost too sweet. It's like if you've had a vanilla cake with vanilla frosting and it's like, oh my, but this actually has some character to it.
Yep, exactly. 100%. And I think definitely, I mean, Aladino, they're creative. If you guys don't know, there's a whole story behind the Aladino brand, and I'll go very briefly over it. Aladino is Justo Aroa's brand. Christian Aroa is Aroa Cigars, or CLE. He also owns Asylum. So those are 3 under Christian Aroa. So these brothers are the son of Julio Aroa. Julio started the Camacho brand that was bought by Davidoff. So this is a cigar family, guys. These guys, Aladino, the Aroa family, they know what they're doing when it comes to cigars. They are not rookies. These guys are experts in their realm. Christian and Justo could not be different. I know both of them personally. They could not be different people. Both, I love both of them. We have a great time together when we get together. But I gotta say, they know what they're doing, and they nailed this Aladino Candela. So I just had to put that out there. Little blurb too for those cigar noobs out there, or even experts that may not have known. They may have smoked an Aladino and smoked an Aroa cigar, but they said Aladino is this, Aroa is Aroa. But no, Christian is the older brother, so he got the name Aroa Cigars. Justo's the younger brother, so he had to come up with his own. It's Aladino. But absolutely phenomenal cigar family. So they know what they're doing with these cigars. And is that a little filibuster and waste of time for me to try and figure out this bit? Definitely a little bit. It has been interesting, I will say the least, to say the least.
Yep. Yeah, I can filibuster for you a little bit and give away my ranking if you want. So you have some more
Go
time to
ahead. There you go. There you
wrap
go.
it up. All right. So I'll give away my ranking. Here's what I learned from this pairing. So everybody's palate's different. Everybody's taste buds are different. For me, the green spot was an ultra pairing where I got a flavor I've never got from green spot before. However, I did not think about the fact that you might not like the flavor that you get from an ultra pairing. And it's that almond, which I love. I love almond. And then on the finish, it turns into what I can only describe as soy sauce. That I went through it in my brain. I was like, "There's no way this is what it is." I did it again while you were talking, and I'm like, "It's reminding me of a Chinese food soy sauce, something that I wasn't a fan of. I don't know. And I like Chinese food, but just not in my whiskey." So that's, I mean, to be fair. So that's going to be number 3 for me. Once again, beautiful separate. When it came together, not a fan of that extra note that came out for me. Next to that, I'm going to put the coffee. I have the coffee in number 2 because while it did steamroll the cigar, it made it kind of hard to taste the cigar. The flavor that came out of the coffee from that cigar was fabulous. I really enjoyed it. Brought all those Irish cream flavors. It elevated them. It made them pop. I was a big fan of that. And then at number 1, I've got to put Dead Rabbit, which I thought might not have enough body. And let me tell you, it was perfect. It was the perfect matchup. The Dead Rabbit, the flavors were still there. It was still sweet. It was still creamy. The cigar was still sweet and creamy. And for me, that's like exactly what I want on like a St. Patty's Day. It's just, well, I'm in the north, so it's just getting nice outside for St. Patty's Day. And I'm sitting out in the springtime. And that was a solid, like peaceful pairing for me. I was actually a really big fan of that. But the ultra pairing thing, that was a lesson learned for me because I wasn't a fan of the thing that came from it.
Yeah, and it's a great example. Before I go into mine, I'll do a brief. Like I said last podcast, the antagonistic doesn't necessarily mean bad. It can be
Mm-hmm.
good. And I'm feeling like you're enjoying these antagonistic pairings, like this FDC right here, the fire department coffee. You're
Mm-hmm.
enjoying these nuances, the how one affects the other, and that again is there's no right or wrong, right? That is huge for me. I'm gonna go bottom up. I'm going FDC last because I am on occasion the fire department coffee. To be clear, I'm on occasion an antagonistic fan. This one just in particular wasn't doing it for me. I I can picture in my head the cigar that I wanted to have. Like I was like, dang, like if I was not recording a podcast right now, I would set this down and I would go grab this one and I would smoke it with this and it would be absolutely bomb. Like I can just like we were talking about last podcast, like the memories, like I know exactly what I want right now.
Yep.
So that was number 3 for me. Number 2 was Green Spot. Is that where you guessed?
Yes. Yeah, that's where I was gonna put it for you. Yep.
Okay, fair. Then you know me very well. But for me, it was hard to figure out. That was the reason why the I think if I had to put it and I could see maybe if I understood the whiskey a little bit more where I'd find an ultra, but I think for me it was antagonistic. I didn't see. I saw again like up, down, left, right. I couldn't pinpoint where the whiskey should have started, so I couldn't pinpoint where it should be exactly. But I knew the cigar was changing, and it absolutely phenomenally made that cigar taste so good. Like that again. I don't know if the Aladino family or if Candelas in general are pairing when they do their blending, if they're pairing with Irish whiskey and stuff when they make these Candelas, but they should. And if they are, they're geniuses because it's working. Because it's every single like one of these pairings has elevated the cigar, in my opinion. But Dead Rabbit, yeah. I mean, from the first sip, from the first puff, and second sip, second puff, third, like it was just beautiful all the way across that one. There was no clash. It was like I said, it felt like they were both trying so hard to work together to create something perfect together.
Mm-hmm.
That is super fun when you find a complementary pairing like that. And the last note I'll make, that is my rankings. But complimentary, by the way, does not mean good either.
Very
Because
good
if
point.
you don't like the cigar and you don't like the whiskey, and it elevates the flavor of both, that's going to be an even worse experience for you. You're going to be like, this is the worst experience. It's so complimentary that the bad flavor and this bad flavor came together, and I did not like anything going on.
Yep, that is totally fair. That has happened for me when I didn't know how to put it. Like I didn't know what complementary pairings were, but where I was just like, oh my gosh, these are both getting elevated in the worst way, where they're just like they're feeding off of each other, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
Oh, and I'm bringing up the answer to our trivia. I wanted to cite the receipts here so that people don't come at me because I know this is a debated one, but I'm bringing it up so that I can
Yeah.
I can have the receipts basically.
Yeah.
All right, are we ready to reveal the trivia?
I think we're good. I think we're good to go.
Okay, so the first whiskey ever made. This is sometimes debated, and I've heard two different ones. The reason I did it for St. Patty's Day is because I am of the school of thought, and from all the research I've done, the first ever whiskey was made in Ireland. And here I've got an article on abcfws.com. That's ABC Fine Wine and Spirits. And so the origin of Irish whiskey began in about 1000 to 1200 AD. So we're talking a long time ago. And it was kind of in Scotland and in Ireland. So it's one of those where it's like, how do we know? But we do have the first recording. So the first written record of whiskey was in 1405. I'm going to mispronounce this word. In the Irish annals of Clonmacnoise. Google that for yourself because I definitely pronounced it wrong. But 1405 is the first written record that we have of it. Now, another site that I've seen a lot, another thing I've seen cited a lot is 1494, where it was recorded in Scotland, but 1405 comes before 1494. So that's the first written record that I can find in all the research that I've done previously. So Irish whiskey, the first whiskey recorded that we know of.
There you go. The Irish do it right. I mean, I'm just waiting for an actual Irish Candela cigar. I don't even know if they make tobacco in Ireland, but they need to make a Candela, and then everybody will forget about everything else except for this Aladino Candela because it's absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, they should give that a shot. I don't know if they have the climate for it, but maybe if they artificially improve that climate.
Yeah, somehow. But Chris, I appreciate you, man. I think this was another great episode. I think we explored some very different things. Our first non-alcoholic pairing. I enjoyed it. I think we're only going to uncover more and more as we go. I think this was a great episode.
Absolutely. Once again, we're learning a lot. I hope you guys are as well. I hope you enjoyed these pairings, and it was a great episode. It was fantastic. And I'll leave instead of cheers. I'm going to say sláinte because that is how they say cheers over there in Ireland.
I love it. Sláinte, guys.
Sláinte.